Good morning, everybody. Today's date is the 25th of February, if I get it right. The time is just gone 8 o'clock here in the UK. So, I am looking out on a beautiful scene of snow this morning. Mercury doing its thing in terms of travel disruptions in a very watery, cold Pisces way today. And apparently for the rest of the week. So yes, Mercury fun and games to be had travelling around. So just be very careful out there. Give yourselves plenty of time to get there, as you would do anyway during a Mercury retrograde, as we discussed last week. So what can we expect of this week? Well, if anything, this week is the most heavy duty of all the weeks in February. We have got the Mars conjunct the South Node for a few days, starting on the 25th, which is tomorrow, which can feel very draining. South Node is about throwing things away. South Node is about getting rid of, purging, those kind of activities. And Mars is obviously your energy, so it can almost feel as if the South Node is draining you of what energy you have these first few days of this week. And it can certainly lead to feeling a little low and miserable. I know, particularly looking out on the weather today, it can make you feel like that anyway. But so whether one causes the other or the other causes the one, who's to say? I think it's a little bit of everything. But there's definitely that kind of feeling of, this week. That's the best way to describe it. How would you describe this week? I would describe it as, So other things about the Mars conjunct the South Node. It comes back to the idea of, say, getting rid of, which we have talked about before with the South Node, cleaning and clearing and sorting things out. But with Mars there, this sort of urge to purge goes a step further, because Mars is bringing that sort of slice and dice action to all of this. So there could be the danger of going too far with the slicing and the dicing and actually getting rid of things that you may need in the future. So part of you might just feel like, oh, to hell with it, let's get rid of the lot. I would avoid doing that, even if it feels like it feels good at the time. Difficult things in life, it's easier sometimes just to walk away from them than to work upon them. And one of the things that you need to do, which isn't helped by Mercury, because obviously Mercury is in its foggy place, is deciding upon which things need to go and which things need to stay. And if anything, hang fire with the things that you're not sure about until after Mercury goes forward and is into a more decisive sign like Aries, where it'll be heading next. Or even when it dips back into Aquarius before it starts its forward motion again. So like I say, that I think everybody gets to this point in the winter when everything feels like you feel really fed up of things and you want things to start afresh and to start anew. And that's just exacerbated by this Mars conjunct the South Node feeling that there is around the place. Whether that be just wanted to get rid of everything out of your house, or whether you wanted to sort of go, right, sod the job, I'm going to go for something else, or sod the relationship, I'm going to get somebody else. There is definitely that urge this week just to say, to hell with it, let's get rid of it. And some of the things might be ripe for that, but you will know for definite those things that, if you haven't got rid of them by now, after all this action with this South Node, Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter, and now Mars getting in on the picture as well, then say, if you're still hanging on to something for grim death that you should have got rid of 2 years ago, then get rid. But if you're not sure, if you're teetering on the edge of something, just hang fire a couple of weeks until you can see clearly what's actually going on with some of this stuff. And again, so it goes back to this feeling again of Mars versus Mercury this week, even though they're in quite a nice aspect to each other. I think because Mercury's not in a very good condition, Mars is in a good condition and wants to get on and do things and feel like as if you're getting some decisive action going down. But Mercury's just, when you're giving Mercury the list of things to write down, it gets them wrong or it doesn't fill them in properly, so you haven't got all the details, and she mislays the list in the first place, kind of thing. So the only way really to deal with Mercury in Mercury's terms in terms of Pisces is by using senses other than logic. It's about using your intuition, using your emotions rather than trying to think purely logically about things. If you try and think logically under Mercury in Pisces, you've got no chance, basically, because that's not how Mercury in Pisces works. It's like I said to you last week, it's like being underwater. So if you try and talk underwater, you can't tell what somebody is saying. The only way that you can communicate underwater is sonar. So use your sonar this week. But Mercury's getting to an interesting point this week. It gets halfway through its retrograde cycle. It is a longer retrograde cycle than usual. It's well over 3 weeks, and it probably feels like about 17 because it's Pisces, and it's, say, confusing and distracting and everything else. But when the sun crosses Mercury and you get the Cazimi on the 26th, that could be the light bulb moment for you. So within any Mercury retrograde, once you're in it, sort of halfway through, you'll realise what you really need to do to be able to sort out the issues that it's asking you to review and look over. Because Mercury retrograde, irrespective of sign, it is review and redo. So it's about going back over things to see where there might be things that you've missed, to see where you have to do things over, to get the further detail. And so some of that is not going to be an easy task because, like I say, you're having to use senses other than logic to be able to get to where you need to be. But it could be that if you use meditation, if you are listening to music, or if you are just simply in the bath, you might get that light bulb moment when that happens, say on the 26th, and that could then help guide you to where you need to be, even if you can't necessarily act upon it straight away. And that's the thing when you're coming out of the Mercury retrograde, it's like, yeah, I know what I need to do now, but you might still have to hold fire for a little bit until Mercury goes forward to finalise everything and to get it sorted out. So what else, what other delights have we got this week? So on the 28th, we've got the Venus square to Pluto. And Venus square Pluto is a very intense aspect. Venus obviously in Aries at the moment, Pluto in Capricorn. And Venus in Aries has this tendency to put people and things and ideas on pedestals. So very much idealizing situations and relationships. And you add to Pluto in the mix, particularly on the square aspect, and you could have trouble there because that kind of passionate intensity that Pluto contacts bring might not be the most positive for you and that person. It is kind of being too involved in something and not being able to see things clearly because of that. So watch out in your relationships of where you're getting too hung up on certain issues, or you are looking at things through an idealistic lens or through a prism where it scatters the light into sort of millions of pieces so that you can't see exactly what's going on with it. It can sometimes bring arguments in relationships because, like I say, it's Venus ruled by Mars, so it is definitely a make love not war, war not love kind of idea. So be careful around the 28th of getting too heated in your relationships with others and too hung up on issues which might seem vitally important at the time but are really not. They're they could be coming from too personal a place. That's your version of reality, not theirs. And so don't try and make people you, which is the problem when people get obsessed with things. They see people not as they are, but as an object to be glorified. So if you think of any kind of film where, like Fatal Attraction or anything like that, that's Venus Pluto in action, where somebody is, has obsessive behavior around a person, or an issue in a relationship. So, so that's to watch out for. And the last one for this week on the leap year day, the 29th, is Mercury sextile Uranus. And this could actually help Mercury a little bit. So once you've had the light bulb of the Cassimi, you may get further insights through this aspect on the 29th, because Uranus brings in those flashes of inspiration and creative thinking. You might not be able to say to manifest at this time, but it could bring the ideas for you to then write down and then use later. So again, be aware of how messages are coming through to you through channels that are not logical or rational. So say just through dreams, through meditation, through any kind of altered states where you are, you've got your headphones on, you're listening to music, or you're under the water in the bath, or wherever it is, you might suddenly get those flashes of insight there. So not the best of weeks overall. As I say, the weather out there is certainly reflecting that in good Shakespearean fashion. If you can, try and put off any kind of overactivity this week, of overstretching yourself. If you are trying to get some things done, make sure that you are double checking everything. As I've had to do with my links to my videos, which I think I've sorted it out. So hopefully you'll be able to get those now via the link every week that I'll put up on Instagram as well. Say typical Mercury Pisces stuff, trying to get things done, not getting there very fast. So yeah, just go with it. Rather than get frustrated by it, just go with it. Accept the fact that this is how it is this week, and say you'll get a few more days of that going into March, but by the first end of the first week in March, we'll be kind of clearer of this energy, and that we'll be able to start to move forward a bit more, particularly when Venus changes signs into Taurus, where she's much happier. And we'll be able to make some positive aspects with those Capricorn planets. So yeah, we're getting there. We're getting out of this cardinal energy for the moment. As things sort of move on and into different signs. But so there's just this last bit of clearing and sorting, and just say sometimes being hindered by the fogginess of Mercury. So have a good week, and I shall speak to you all soon. Bye.